6 surprising signs you're already healed. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Healing, then, is not about erasing your past. It's about transforming your relationship with it. Every scar, every heartbreak, every silent night you've survived has shaped the strength that now lives within you. In this video, we'll uncover 6 surprising signs that you're already healed, even if you haven't realized it yet. As you listen, reflect on your own journey, how far you've come, how much lighter your soul feels, and how your energy has quietly shifted. Which of these signs speaks most deeply to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's grow together on this path of spiritual wisdom and self-awakening. 1. You no longer chase closure. You've stopped chasing after closure because you finally understand that peace doesn't come from explanations. It comes from acceptance. You no longer wait for someone to apologize or justify why they hurt you, because deep down, you've realized that no amount of words can rewrite what already happened. Instead, you've found strength in silence and wisdom in surrender. You've learned that closure is not something someone gives you. It's something you build within yourself. The moment you stopped needing answers was the moment your healing began. The storm that once raged inside you has softened, not because the past disappeared, but because you've changed the way you hold it. You now see that people don't leave to break you. They leave to awaken you. Every departure carries a hidden lesson, and every ending is a doorway to a deeper understanding of who you are. When you no longer seek validation from those who walked away, it's because you've remembered your worth. Spirituality has taught you that life is not about getting everything explained. It's about allowing experiences to expand your soul. Pain was once your teacher, but now it's your proof that transformation is real. You've moved from questioning, "Why me?" to understand, "For me." And in that shift, something sacred happened. You began to rise beyond the need for closure, into the calm awareness that your spirit is whole, even when life feels incomplete. Through this spiritual awakening, you've learned that closure doesn't mean the story is over. It means you've reached peace without knowing how it ends. You stopped reopening old wounds just to see if they still hurt, and instead began nurturing the parts of you that chose to survive. The energy you once used to chase answers now fuels your growth. You've realized that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for your freedom. You no longer carry the weight of unfinished conversations, because silence itself has become your answer. This stillness, this gentle acceptance, is the quiet revolution of your healing, the sign that you've finally come home to yourself. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to affirm your growth. Comment below, "I no longer chase closure," and let the world know that you've stepped into peace and emotional freedom. 2. You no longer need to be understood. You've reached a level of spiritual growth where you no longer need to be understood because you've released the old craving for validation. You've outgrown the urge to explain yourself to those who are determined to misunderstand you. There's a deep calm that rises within you when you realize that your worth is not up for negotiation. It is self-defined, rooted in truth, and untouched by the projections of others. You've learned that people don't see you as you are. They see you through the lens of their own unhealed pain, their fears, and their limitations. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And through this understanding, you've begun to see clearly that when others judge or reject you, they're often wrestling with parts of themselves they have yet to face. You no longer feel the need to justify your light to those who prefer their shadows. You no longer chase clarity from people who thrive in confusion. Instead, you've chosen peace over explanation, truth over performance, and alignment over approval. The misunderstandings that once tore at your spirit now pass through you like wind through open hands. You understand that energy is sacred, and not every misunderstanding deserves your defense. You've become selective with your words and intentional with your silence, because silence too can be a declaration of strength. You have realized that true spirituality is not about convincing the world. It's about staying centered in your own frequency, even when the world doesn't understand your song. There is power in this detachment, but it's not coldness. It's emotional maturity. It's the quiet recognition that not everyone has earned the right to know your depths. You've stopped performing for acceptance because you've accepted yourself fully. That's what healing truly looks like. It's no longer about fixing who you are. It's about embracing who you've become. You've learned that peace is far more precious than being right, and the need to be understood fades once you understand yourself deeply enough. The projections of others no longer trigger you because you see them for what they are, reflections of someone else's inner war, not yours. Now, you move through life with a softer strength, one that doesn't need to prove, defend, or persuade. You've made peace with being misunderstood because authenticity often threatens the comfort of those still living in illusion. You no longer dim your light just to make others feel safe in their shadows. You let your truth shine quietly, knowing that those meant for you will recognize your energy without needing an explanation. And when they don't, you no longer shrink. You simply keep walking, carrying your light like a lantern through the fog. That's what spiritual growth truly is. The art of knowing who you are so completely that misunderstanding no longer wounds you. It refines you. And when you reach that point, you realize healing was never about changing who you are. It was about remembering that you were whole all along. If you're ready to rise above the need for validation, comment, "I'm at peace" below. Your reflection helps us grow together in this journey of healing and spiritual wisdom. 3. You stop romanticizing the past. You know you've reached a deep level of healing when you can look back at your past without romanticizing it, without wishing to return to it, without that aching sense of loss that once colored every memory. The past stops being a wound and becomes a wise teacher. You can finally see everything that happened, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the disappointments, not as punishments, but as lessons that shaped your awakening. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what you've done. You've brought light to your hidden patterns, recognized the cycles that kept repeating, and chosen to step out of them with awareness. What once had control over you no longer defines you, because through spiritual wisdom, you've transformed what was once pain into power. There was a time when nostalgia felt like comfort, when you replayed old moments and wondered if life would ever feel the same again. But now you understand that what you were truly missing was not the past itself, but the version of you who hadn't yet learned what you know today. The longing fades when you realize that you no longer need to go back because you've integrated the lesson and carried its wisdom forward. You've stopped trying to fix what is gone or idealize what once was, and instead, you honor the meaning it brought. This shift is profound. It's when the unconscious no longer controls your choices because you've met yourself fully in the mirror of experience. Healing isn't about forgetting or pretending the past never happened. It's about seeing it clearly, without judgment or illusion. You stop asking why life hurts you and start understanding how life shaped you. You can now visit those memories like old photographs, appreciating them, but not wanting to live in them. You can reflect without regret, love without attachment, and remember without pain. The moments that once broke, you have now become the roots of your resilience. You've turned your suffering into wisdom, your confusion into clarity, your longing into peace. As Jung believed, transformation happens the moment we stop fighting our shadows and begin to integrate them. And that's where you are no longer trapped in the emotional gravity of what was, but free to exist in the lightness of what is. To stop romanticizing the past is to reclaim your energy from everything that once drained it. You no longer chase closure from others because you've given it to yourself. The past no longer whispers, "Come back," because your soul has moved forward with grace. And in this quiet strength, you realize healing didn't come with fanfare. It came in your silence, your acceptance, your ability to look back and smile. That's the real power of spiritual wisdom, to remember everything and still feel peace. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue uncovering the wisdom behind healing and moving beyond the past together. 4. Solitude feels like home. Silence no longer feels like emptiness. It feels like peace. When you reach this stage of your spiritual awakening, solitude stops being a punishment and becomes a sacred sanctuary. The quiet no longer threatens you because you've learned to face your shadow without fear. You've met the darker corners of your mind with compassion instead of resistance, realizing that every part of you, both the light and the dark, belongs to the same wholeness. In this state, solitude becomes self-connection, not loneliness. It's where you stop searching for approval, stop craving noise to fill the void, and start understanding that healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives in whispers. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And in your silence, you've awakened. You've turned inward and discovered that the parts of you you once ran from were never enemies. They were forgotten fragments of your soul waiting to be embraced. You begin to see that wholeness is not about becoming perfect, but about accepting yourself as you are, unfiltered and unmasked. You no longer measure your worth by how others see you, because solitude teaches you that peace is an inside job. The world's noise fades into the background, and what once felt like unbearable stillness now feels like coming home to yourself. You notice that in this calm, your mind clears, your intuition sharpens, and your heart becomes your compass. You understand that in spirituality, healing isn't about escaping pain, but transforming your relationship with it. The same silence that once amplified your wounds now becomes the medicine that soothes them. You stop running from the darkness because you realize that the light was hidden inside it all along. You begin to cherish moments of stillness, the way one cherishes rare treasures. You sit with your thoughts and find that they no longer control you. They simply pass through you like clouds across a vast sky. There is no more battle between who you are and who you think you should be. You realize that solitude isn't about isolation. It's about integration. You no longer need to prove anything or fix everything. You understand that healing is not the absence of pain, but the transformation of it into wisdom. You no longer chase people, validation, or noise to feel alive. Instead, you connect with the divine rhythm that exists within your own being. You breathe differently, speak with more purpose, and walk through life with quiet confidence. You start to see everything through softer eyes. You forgive more easily, listen more deeply, and love without expectation. The silence that once felt heavy now holds you like an old friend. It whispers truths that no external voice could ever teach, that you are enough, that your soul is whole, and that you are never truly lost. In this state, you don't need to explain your peace or justify your detachment because you finally understand that solitude is not a void to be filled, but a space to be honored. Carl Jung believed that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And now you understand why. True healing happens when you stop running from the parts of yourself you once feared and learn to sit beside them with love. That's when silence feels like home, not because the noise is gone, but because you've made peace with it within. Did this message resonate with you? If solitude now feels like home, comment below, "I am at peace within," to affirm your healing and inspire others on their own journey of spiritual wisdom. 5. You respond instead of react. You know you've reached a profound stage of spirituality and spiritual growth when you no longer react impulsively, but respond with calm awareness. This shift is not about suppressing emotions. It's about understanding them, holding space for them, and allowing them to pass through without destroying your peace. You've developed emotional maturity, the kind that only comes through deep inner work and honest self-reflection. The pause between what you feel and what you choose to do has become your power, a quiet declaration that your emotions no longer rule you, you rule them. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Now, you are no longer a slave to old patterns. You've learned to notice your triggers, to observe pain without becoming it, and to allow emotions to exist without letting them drive your decisions. When someone offends you, instead of reacting with anger or defense, you stop, you breathe, and you witness the situation from a higher state of awareness. You see their behavior not as a personal attack, but as a reflection of their own wounds. You understand that peace does not mean the absence of chaos, but the mastery of stillness within it. That inner stillness is your proof of healing. It is the moment you realize that other people's energy no longer dictates your mood, and external chaos no longer shakes your center. You've discovered the sacred pause between emotion and action, and in that space lies freedom. This is what integration feels like, the merging of light and shadow, of instinct and wisdom. You no longer see emotions as enemies to be fought, but as sacred signals guiding you toward growth. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, compassion over ego, and presence over impulse, you embody a higher form of consciousness. You become the observer, not the reactor. You realize that emotional control is not about being cold or detached. It's about being so in tune with your soul that nothing outside of you can disturb your inner harmony. Others notice this change. They feel your calm presence, the way your energy speaks louder than your words. You no longer enter conversations to prove yourself, but to share your truth gently, with strength and serenity. The more you respond instead of react, the more aligned you become with your highest self. Each pause becomes a prayer. Each deep breath a reminder that healing isn't about forgetting the past, but transforming the way it lives inside you. You no longer seek validation through confrontation because peace has become your identity. When conflict arises, you no longer rush to defend or attack. You choose understanding, and that choice reveals the depth of your transformation. The space between emotion and action is no longer empty. It is sacred. It's where your spirit whispers, where your wisdom awakens, and where your true healing reveals itself. This ability to respond with grace, awareness, and presence is not just emotional maturity. It is spiritual mastery, the ultimate sign that you have already healed more than you realize. Leave your like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. If you know you've reached the point where you respond instead of react, type in the comments, "I choose peace over chaos." 6. You create instead of escape. When pain no longer sends you running from yourself, but instead becomes the spark that fuels your creativity, you have reached a sacred stage of inner healing that Carl Jung, in his Spiritual Wisdom, called individuation, the soul's process of becoming whole. You stop escaping and start creating. You begin to express instead of suppress, allowing your emotions to move through you rather than burying them beneath distractions. The wounds that once silenced you now whisper inspiration. You turn your scars into symbols, your sorrow into stories, your pain into purpose. You realize that healing is not about erasing what hurt you, but transforming it into something meaningful, something that speaks truth. As your awareness deepens, creation becomes your natural response to life. You no longer crave to be rescued from pain because you've learned that pain itself can become the sculptor of your spirit. Each time you choose to create instead of escape, you reclaim a lost part of yourself. You write, sing, paint, build, teach, or simply live with a new kind of depth, one that carries compassion for others who still wander in the dark. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." You now understand what that means. Every creative act is a conversation between your darkness and your light, a bridge between the fragmented self and the whole. You start to see beauty, even in what once broke you. The anger that once consumed you becomes fuel for passion. The sadness that drowned you turns into empathy. The silence you once feared becomes the stillness where inspiration is born. You begin to live as an artist of your own soul, turning ordinary experiences into moments of reflection and revelation. And slowly, without even realizing it, your life becomes your greatest masterpiece, painted not with perfection, but with honesty. In this space, creativity is no longer about performance or applause. It becomes your way of praying. Every word you write, Every action you take becomes an offering to existence. Through this, you realize that emotions are not meant to be caged. They are energy, sacred and alive. When directed with consciousness, they become powerful tools for transformation. You no longer resist the waves of emotion. You surf them with grace. And in doing so, you awaken something ancient within the soul's capacity to turn chaos into order, pain into power, and suffering into wisdom. Through the lens of Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, this is the true sign that you are already healed. Your pain no longer controls you. It creates through you. You no longer fear what you feel because you have learned to channel it into art, meaning, and purpose. You are no longer a victim of your story. You are its author. You've stopped trying to return to who you were before the hurt, because now you see that every tear, every scar, every heartbreak was shaping you into someone capable of deeper love and understanding. This is what it means to heal, to create from the ashes, to speak where you once stayed silent, to live with open hands and an open heart, allowing life to move through you as the ultimate act of creation. To affirm your healing and the power to create rather than escape, speak it into existence. Comment below, "I create from peace, not pain," to declare your transformation and remind others that true healing is not about avoiding life, but shaping it with intention, courage, and love. True healing, as Carl Jung taught, is not a destination, but a transformation, a quiet evolution of the soul. It's when peace replaces the need for closure, when solitude feels like home, and when you create from your pain instead of escaping it. Healing doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it looks like calm mornings, gentle boundaries, and love that no longer hurts. So tonight, take a deep breath and honor how far you've come, because you've already healed more than you realize. Which of these signs resonated most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Spiritual Wisdom for more insights to help you grow in peace, strength, and self-awareness every day. Carl Jung's shocking truth: how to stop wasting your life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung once said, reminding us that so much of what we call destiny is simply the result of living on autopilot. In this video on spiritual wisdom, we will uncover Jung's shocking truth about how to stop wasting your life and start living with intention. Ask yourself honestly, are you living fully or merely existing? As you listen, I'd love to hear your reflections. Share your thoughts in the comments, and let us know how you plan to apply these principles to create a life of growth, purpose, and happiness. 1. The feeling of emptiness is a signal, not a defect. That persistent sense of emptiness you sometimes feel deep inside is not a flaw in your character, nor is it simply anxiety or depression, but rather a profound message from the soul. Carl Jung taught that psychological suffering is not an illness to be silenced, but the psyche's own attempt to heal and self-correct when life strays too far from inner truth. What you mistake for weakness is in fact a signal, the soul's cry for attention, pulling you back toward authenticity and meaning. To ignore it is like shutting off a fire alarm while flames consume the house. Yet to honor it is to step into the very doorway of transformation. So many men spend their years chasing status, money, or validation, hoping that external success will quiet the restless void. They pour themselves into long hours of work, endless distractions, or empty pleasures, believing that achievements will heal the silent ache within. But spiritual wisdom makes it clear that no amount of outer gain can resolve the dissonance when your outer life does not match your inner life. You can own the finest possessions, receive applause from the world, and still wake up each morning with the heavy feeling that something is missing. Because true fulfillment is born only when your actions, values, and essence are aligned. The emptiness exists to remind you that you have abandoned parts of yourself, that you are not living in harmony with your deepest truth. This is where spirituality and spiritual awakening reveal their power. For awakening does not arrive in comfort, but in the friction of pain, the hunger for truth, and the courage to face the shadow you have long denied. The numbness, the restlessness, the haunting sense of being out of place, these are not curses, but invitations. They ask you to slow down, to listen, to ask yourself difficult questions. What is this pain trying to teach me? Which part of my soul have I silenced? What truth am I refusing to live? Jung believed that confronting suffering with awareness transforms it into guidance, because pain carries the hidden key to meaning. The shocking truth is that emptiness is not here to destroy you, but to awaken you. It is the soul knocking on the door of consciousness, urging you to remember who you are and why you are here. When you reframe your suffering as a signal rather than a defect, you begin to see it as the very path back to life itself. By embracing it instead of running from it, you stop wasting your days in quiet despair and start walking toward a life where your inner world and your outer world are finally in harmony. And it is in that harmony that you find not only peace, but also the unshakable strength of living a meaningful life. If you understand that the feeling of emptiness is not a defect, but a signal for change, comment below, "I choose growth," to affirm your commitment to transformation and spiritual wisdom. 2. Medication can mask the deeper problem. Medication may silence your symptoms, but what it often does is distract you from the deeper wound, your disconnection from the authentic self. Modern society convinces you that if you are busy, you are valuable. And if you are in pain, there is always a pill to numb it. Yet beneath the noise and numbness lies a truth you cannot escape. The truth Carl Jung described when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Because in trying to escape discomfort, you may be wasting your life in ways you do not even notice. This is not to dismiss medication, for in many cases it is necessary and life-saving, but rather to challenge the illusion that symptom management equals healing. Because you and I both know a life can look functional on the surface, yet feel hollow underneath. And what makes it hollow is the lack of meaning, the absence of a why, which Viktor Frankl taught us is the very force that allows us to bear any how. When you quiet your suffering without asking what it means, you silence the messenger that came to awaken you. And Jung warned that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. So you must ask yourself, what if the very pain you are trying to escape is the door to your real life? Think of a man who works endless hours, takes medication to sleep, wakes to screens, and calls it living. His body moves, his tasks get done, but his soul feels forgotten, and that forgotten life is the costliest bill you will ever pay. Spiritual wisdom does not call you to abandon help, but to go deeper than help, to uncover the truth that the ache itself is an invitation, urging you to turn inward, to see what parts of yourself you have exiled in the name of survival, approval, or control. The shadow self, those disowned desires, hidden fears, and unlived possibilities, keeps knocking at the edges of your awareness. And when you repress it, it leaks through anxiety, depression, addictions, and restless dissatisfaction. When you begin to listen to it with courage, it becomes your teacher. This is the path of spiritual awakening, not the dramatic fireworks of instant transformation, but the steady daily act of noticing, of daring to tell the truth, of keeping one small promise to yourself that affirms who you really are. It is not about grand gestures, but about realignment, about setting one boundary you have long avoided, speaking one honest sentence to someone you trust, creating one daily ritual that anchors you in presence instead of distraction, and pursuing one passion that breathes life into your days. In practice, this could mean journaling until the surface chatter quiets and the real sentences arrive, walking without headphones just to hear your own thoughts, praying in silence until your heartbeat finds its rhythm with your purpose, or seeking a wise mentor or therapist, not because you are broken, but because you deserve to be witnessed in your becoming. With each step you take, the frantic pull of distraction will begin to ease. The hollow metrics of productivity will lose their hold, and in their place will rise the quiet fulfillment of alignment. Jung reminded us, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that privilege is yours to claim, but only if you stop numbing and start noticing, if you stop running and start listening, if you let your pain reveal the path instead of hiding it. For when you honor your soul in this way, you no longer need endless tricks to feel alive. You awaken to the life already within you, guided by presence, meaning, and the deep assurance that your spirit truly matters. 3. Modern life is structurally soul-crushing. We are raised in a world that measures us by how much we produce rather than how deeply we live. A world that rewards conformity, achievement, and consumption while silencing the whisper of our inner voice. You know this feeling well. Your calendar fills with tasks that look important but leave you empty. Your days pass in a rhythm of meetings and deadlines that demand your presence yet ignore your essence. And little by little, you forget that life is not meant to be a performance. Carl Jung called this mask the persona, and while it helps us function in society, it becomes dangerous when it becomes our entire identity. Beneath it lies the shadow, all the truths and desires you have buried to be accepted, and beyond both is the self, your truest center, the source of meaning that calls you to awaken. Jung's timeless warning still echoes today. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. When you chase careers, images, or money without listening to that inner call, you slowly trade your life for someone else's dream. And the tragedy is that you may succeed at things that never mattered to you. Picture a man in his 40s who has spent 2 decades climbing the corporate ladder, praised by colleagues, envied by neighbors, admired for his steady rise. Yet every Sunday evening, dread coils in his chest, not because of the workload, but because deep down, he knows he is living someone else's story. During a quiet train ride home, he hears a thought surface like a whisper from his soul. This is not my path. For the first time, instead of dismissing it, he writes it down. That single act of honesty becomes a seed. He begins small, declining one unnecessary meeting, carving out an hour for work that feels alive, enrolling in a night class that connects with his deeper gifts. Nothing explodes, yet everything shifts. His body feels lighter, his choices clearer, and for the first time in years, he is not merely productive, he is fulfilled. This is what spirituality in action looks like, not escaping the world, but entering it with integrity, alignment, and the courage to be true. Jung reminded us, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. An awakening begins with simple, consistent steps toward truth. You too can begin where you are. Start your mornings not with emails or notifications, but with a question. What would integrity do today? Keep a notebook where you write one honest line each night, because truth multiplies when recorded. Protect your energy with boundaries, saying no to roles that drain your soul, and yes to work that feeds your purpose. Surround yourself with people who encourage your growth rather than profit from your confusion, because community shapes character more than any paycheck. Pay attention to your body when your words say yes, but your heart contracts. That is wisdom speaking louder than logic. Let money, image, and status serve as tools, but never masters. Most of all, remember that presence matters more than performance. That life is not waiting for you somewhere in the future, but is asking for your full attention right here. When you honor this, you stop wasting your days on illusions and begin living them as sacred steps of spiritual growth. A journey where your inner voice is no longer silenced, but becomes the compass guiding you toward the person you were always meant to be. If you feel the weight of modern life, but are ready to rise above it, repeat after me. I choose to break free from the soul-crushing patterns of this world. I honor my spirit and awaken my true self today. 4. Anxiety and depression are messages from the soul. Anxiety and depression are not flaws in your character or signs that you are weak. They are urgent messages from the soul telling you that something in your life is out of balance and must change. Burnout, panic, or numbness are not malfunctions to be silenced, but warning lights that your deeper self has been ignored for too long. And as Carl Jung said, neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering, meaning that when we refuse to endure the honest pain of change and truth, we invite an even heavier pain into our lives. These emotions are not random. They are a compass pointing you toward what you have denied, suppressed, or abandoned within yourself. Think of the man who has built a life of success on the outside, yet lies awake at night with a restless mind and an empty heart. His anxiety is not a curse. It is the soul's way of demanding authenticity, urging him to stop pretending and finally listen. The danger is that society teaches men to medicate these feelings, bury them under work, numb them with alcohol or distractions, and pretend that strength means silence. But the more you avoid the truth, the louder the soul cries out. Jung believed that real healing begins when you confront your shadow, those hidden fears, wounds, and unexpressed desires you have pushed away. Anxiety is the shadow knocking on your door, not to destroy you, but to lead you back to yourself. And depression is not the end, but the invitation to go deeper, to shed the false layers and awaken to who you truly are. Spirituality reminds us that every symptom carries meaning, that what feels like a breakdown can become a breakthrough if you have the courage to face it. A man who ignores these inner signals will repeat the same cycles of failed relationships, hollow victories, and unexplained anger. But a man who chooses to listen begins to rebuild his life from the inside out. He learns that suffering is not meaningless. It is purposeful, guiding him to live in alignment with his soul rather than in the prison of society's expectations. When you reframe anxiety and depression as sacred messages instead of enemies, you begin to see that they are the soul's way of pulling you out of wasting your life in avoidance and pushing you toward a spiritual awakening. And in that awakening, you discover that every fear can be transformed into fuel. Every wound can become wisdom, and every shadow you confront becomes the doorway to a more authentic and powerful life. 5. The real cure is the path of individuation. Carl Jung revealed that the real cure for wasting your life is the path of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming your true self rather than the version that society molds for you. Most people spend their days chasing approval, wealth, and recognition, yet in doing so, they lose touch with their inner truth. Individuation is about peeling away those masks and reconnecting with what is authentic within. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This is not a luxury, but a necessity, because without it, life feels shallow and empty no matter how much success you accumulate. Individuation demands that you face your unconscious, walk into the hidden corridors of your psyche, where wounds and fears live, and have the courage to bring them into the light. To walk this path, you must confront your shadow, the denied and repressed parts of yourself that you fear or refuse to accept. The shadow is not only darkness, it holds your hidden talents, your unrealized strength, and your untapped creativity. Jung warned that what you fail to make conscious will return to you as fate, meaning that your ignored inner patterns will secretly control your relationships, choices, and future until you face them. Many people live on repeat, sabotaging their happiness because they never confront these unconscious forces. Individuation breaks this cycle, freeing you to make conscious choices and live intentionally rather than blindly. This process also requires embracing the denied aspects of your personality, the anger you bury, the softness you hide, the compassion you withhold. Every suppressed part carries the key to your wholeness, and integration is the only way to feel complete. True healing does not come from pretending to be good or perfect, but from accepting the fullness of who you are, light and dark, strong and fragile, rational and emotional. Jung's spiritual wisdom reminds us that the path to freedom is through honesty with yourself, not conformity to others. Modern life makes this difficult. Endless scrolling, shallow comparisons, and the constant pressure to perform are all ways of running away from your inner call. Yet if you dare to listen, that call leads to a depth of life no distraction can give. Jung's truth remains shocking today because most people are not truly living. They are merely existing trapped in routine, consumed by obligations, and hypnotized by society's narrow definition of success. A wasted life is not one without possessions, but one without self-knowledge. Individuation is the antidote, awakening you to the realization that real happiness and meaning come only from alignment with your inner being. Your fate changes the moment you choose to face yourself, because the destiny of your soul is not fixed. It unfolds through your courage to explore the inner world. The journey of individuation is demanding, but it is also the most liberating path you can take, because it grants authenticity, peace, and true spiritual awakening. It is not a single achievement, but a lifelong unfolding of your essence, a daily practice of returning to who you were always meant to be. When you dare to walk this path, you discover that the greatest victory is not found in becoming what others expect, but in living as your most authentic, unapologetic, and conscious self. This is Carl Jung's shocking truth, and it is the spiritual wisdom that can keep you from ever wasting your life. If you're ready to walk the true path of individuation, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your reflections in the comments. Together, we grow in spiritual wisdom. 6. Facing the shadow is the key to wholeness. There is a hidden part of you that you often avoid, the side that holds envy, anger, and shame. And Carl Jung named this the shadow, the forgotten corner of the soul that operates in silence yet directs so much of your life. As he wrote, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people, reminding us that what we bury within will eventually shape the way we see others and the way we live. When ignored, the shadow becomes a puppeteer, pulling strings from the unconscious. But when faced and integrated, it turns into a reservoir of strength, vitality, and authenticity. Consider the story of a young woman named Sarah, who always felt resentment rise whenever her friends shared their achievements. She convinced herself she was simply being humble, yet the bitterness gnawed at her quietly, pushing her toward endless scrolling, comparing, and silently criticizing. One day, after a conversation that left her boiling with frustration, she chose to sit with her discomfort instead of running from it. And she admitted to herself that beneath the resentment was a deep longing to pursue her own dreams that she had been shelving for years. By facing this truth, Sarah uncovered that her anger was not her enemy, but a signal pointing to a neglected part of her, and that her envy was not proof of weakness, but a compass showing her what truly mattered. From that moment, she set aside time to focus on her own creative projects, began asking for help instead of waiting in silence, and discovered that when she brought awareness to her shadow, her relationships became less strained and her energy less divided. Jung reminded us, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And in this lies the power of transformation. When you stop running from your shadow, you begin reclaiming your power to choose. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the exiled potential you have not yet owned. And in it lies the raw material for growth. Envy becomes inspiration to aim higher. Anger becomes the courage to protect your boundaries. And shame becomes the humility that keeps you compassionate. Real spirituality is not about pretending to float above conflict, but about walking into life with eyes wide open, willing to meet every contradiction within you, and from that meeting, turning wounds into wisdom. The next time you feel jealousy, irritation, or insecurity rising, see them as doorways rather than obstacles, because each difficult feeling holds a message. And if you listen deeply, you transform what once sabotaged you into what strengthens you. What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size, wrote Jung, reminding us that resistance fuels the shadow, but conscious awareness liberates it. The lessons are simple, yet profound. Acknowledge what you feel instead of denying it. Ask what value or desire the feeling is pointing toward. Take one small action that honors that value and share the truth with someone you trust, so secrecy cannot feed the shame. By practicing this consistently, you stop being a victim of hidden forces and begin leading your life with clarity and wholeness. This is the essence of spirituality and the heart of spiritual growth. To love every part of yourself enough to bring it into the light, to choose responsibility over avoidance, and to transform your unconscious patterns into the conscious building blocks of a life that feels aligned, powerful, and fully your own. 7. You must reconnect with the unconscious. Carl Jung once said, "What you do not bring to consciousness returns as fate." And in that single truth lies the reason so many men feel restless even when their lives look successful on the outside. The unconscious mind is not just a storehouse of forgotten memories, but also of unresolved traumas and hidden gifts. And when it is ignored, it leaks into your choices, your relationships, and your destiny in ways you may not see until it is too late. You may chase wealth, recognition, or distractions, but if you remain disconnected from your unconscious, you will still feel that quiet emptiness at night when everything else falls silent. Healing begins not with quick affirmations or surface fixes, but with deep introspection through your dreams, through art, through silence, and through the courage to explore what lies beneath your everyday mask. In the modern world, where noise never stops and responsibilities never end, many men push these inner whispers aside, dismissing their dreams as meaningless or their unease as weakness. Yet dreams are the language of the soul. Silence is the doorway to truth, and even the restlessness you feel is a signal that something within you is asking to be heard. Jung's warning is clear. If you do not face the unconscious, it will rule your life without your consent, and you will call it fate. Picture the man who spends decades building a career, earning respect, providing for his family, yet still lies awake at night with a sorrow he cannot name. He tries motivational slogans and positive thinking, but nothing sticks because his deeper wounds remain untouched. When he finally begins journaling his dreams, sketching the images that haunt him, and giving himself time in silence each day, he discovers not only the pain of childhood he buried, but also the creativity and passion he thought had died. By meeting his unconscious, he doesn't lose himself, he finds himself. The unconscious is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally, waiting to be acknowledged. Within it are not only the scars you fear, but also the strengths you need to transform your life. To reconnect with it is to stop wasting your life on illusions and start living with clarity and depth. True spirituality is not about escaping reality, but about awakening to it, making peace with your shadows, and uncovering the treasures hidden within them. When you allow silence to speak, when you honor your dreams as messages, when you open yourself to art and inner exploration, you begin to walk a path of authenticity that no amount of external success could ever replace. This is the essence of spiritual awakening, the courage to face yourself fully, and in doing so, to live a life that is no longer ruled by fate, but guided by conscious choice. If this message on reconnecting with the unconscious has inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Comment below. I choose to reconnect with my unconscious to affirm your journey today. 8. Fear keeps you paralyzed in an inauthentic life. Fear has a way of freezing you into a version of life that does not belong to you. A life that looks stable on the outside but feels hollow inside. The truth is that most people avoid healing because it means walking through fear, loss, and uncertainty. Yet this avoidance only keeps them anesthetized, trapped on autopilot, and cut off from their own vitality. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," reminding us that awakening is not a painless process, but a necessary one. The pain of confronting what is hidden is the very doorway to becoming whole. And when you refuse to face that doorway, you remain paralyzed in an inauthentic life where your choices are no longer truly your own. Every time you silence the call to heal, the unconscious begins to live your life for you, shaping relationships, decisions, and even your sense of purpose. As Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The fears you bury today become the chains that quietly guide you tomorrow. Think about the times you felt numb, drifting through routines that offered no meaning. Those seasons where you were physically present but spiritually absent. You will recognize how avoidance drains your essence more than any direct confrontation ever could. Because fear, when unexamined, becomes your master. Yet spiritual wisdom teaches us that fear itself is not the enemy. It is a messenger, a signal that something important within you is asking for attention and protection. When you turn toward that fear with presence rather than running from it, the shadows begin to shrink under the light of your awareness. It is like stepping into a dark room with a lamp, where monsters dissolve into manageable shapes the moment you actually see them. Healing begins in small, practical steps, asking yourself daily what you are afraid to feel, noticing where that fear lives in your body, breathing into that space with honesty, and then naming one truth you have avoided saying aloud. The act of naming begins to loosen the chains of silence. From there, you take one courageous action, a boundary set, a conversation opened, a toxic habit released. Though anxiety may rise, let it be your signal that you are stepping from the known into the necessary. Transformation does not come in a single thunderclap, but in a steady drumbeat of small, brave choices repeated again and again. As Jung observed, what you resist not only persists, but grows in size. The energy you spend suppressing fear could be the very energy you reclaim to love more deeply, to create with passion, and to live with authenticity. If you fear that looking into the dark will extinguish your light, remember Rumi's truth. The wound is the place where the light enters you. This is not merely poetic comfort, but a profound manual for awakening. To stop wasting your life is to stop running from yourself, to choose presence over pretense, to choose responsibility over excuses, and to choose devotion over distraction. When you do, you discover that fear is not the wall it once seemed, but the door to freedom you have been circling for years. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Jung's words echo across time to remind you that awakening is not a single moment, but an ongoing practice of aligning your inner truth with your outer life. The most frightening door is the one that leads to your liberation. Yet your hand is already on the handle, waiting only for your courage to turn it. 9. Your pain is a call to awaken. Your pain is not proof that you are weak. It is a signal that your soul is asking you to pay attention, a gentle but persistent reminder that something essential is missing in the way you are living. The emptiness you sometimes feel is not failure. It is the absence of your true self in your own life. And that ache is the invitation to return to who you really are. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That means, if you keep ignoring this quiet call, you will continue to live a script written by others, drifting through roles and routines that do not belong to you. Awakening, therefore, is not about chasing dramatic change, but about choosing every day to step away from the life you have been conditioned to live and moving closer to the truth and inner purpose that already live within you. Think of how often people hide behind busyness, achievements, or distractions, only to realize that none of it feels fulfilling. A woman I once knew, admired at work for her consistency, found herself exhausted every night, scrolling endlessly just to silence the restlessness. One day, she stumbled upon the words, "Awakening means leaving behind the life you've been conditioned to live and choosing to live one aligned with your truth and inner purpose." That single line became her turning point. She didn't quit her job or abandon her responsibilities. Instead, she carved out 10 minutes every morning just for herself, writing what she valued, asking what truly mattered, and gently noticing where she was living for others instead of for her own spirit. Within weeks, she felt a shift. Her focus sharpened. Her evenings became spaces for creativity and connection, and her weekends felt alive again. Pain, once seen as her enemy, had become her teacher. Your story can unfold in the same way. Maybe your pain is pushing you to set a boundary you've been afraid to enforce, to give voice to a passion you've kept buried, or to protect your energy from things that drain you. This is what spirituality looks like in practice, not an escape from reality, but a deeper embrace of it. Jung also reminded us, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. When you look inside, you begin to see that your pain is simply pointing toward values you have neglected. The key to spiritual growth is to honor those values in small, consistent actions. Start by naming the pattern that causes your suffering. Then ask yourself, which part of your truth is being silenced? Commit to one daily choice that honors it. A mindful walk, an hour for your art, a firm no to a demand that isn't yours to carry, or a ritual of prayer, journaling, or meditation that centers you. At the end of each day, reflect on what felt alive and what felt empty, and share your truth with someone you trust, because healing magnifies when mirrored by another soul. Do not complicate the path, because growth is not a performance. It is a steady practice of alignment, and the soul speaks most clearly through these quiet, consistent acts. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not destined to wander without meaning. Life changes the moment you claim ownership of your attention and begin to protect the conditions that allow your spirit to breathe. Let your pain be a doorway instead of a sentence. Remember these truths. Your pain carries wisdom, not shame. Your values are your map. Your daily choices are the engine of change. Reflection is your compass, and connection with others is your anchor. hold close the reminder that emptiness is not weakness. It is simply the soul waiting to return, and that awakening means leaving behind the conditioning of the world to live aligned with your deepest truth and your inner purpose. 10. Real transformation is painful, but worth it. Real transformation is never a smooth or easy path, because it asks you to let go of the masks, the comforts, and the shallow habits that once made you feel safe. Yet those very sacrifices open the doorway to true freedom, authenticity, and peace. As Carl Jung reminds us, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and that privilege is not handed out cheaply. It demands courage, honesty, and the willingness to face discomfort head-on. The journey is filled with resistance at first, sleepless nights, the sting of giving up distractions, the awkwardness of saying no where you once said yes, the loneliness of stepping away from shallow approval. But this struggle is not punishment. It is preparation, shaping you into a man who can stand in his own truth without crumbling under pressure. When you decide to embrace spirituality and step into spiritual awakening, you begin to notice how much of your energy was wasted on things that never mattered. Every moment you spent comparing yourself to others, every hour you numbed your feelings with scrolling or drinking, every day you postponed the hard conversation. These were fragments of your life slipping away. Transformation calls you to reclaim them. It may begin with something as simple as sitting quietly for 10 minutes each morning, writing down the truths you can no longer ignore, or admitting to someone close to you that you've been hiding behind anger or fear. These small acts of honesty, repeated over time, build a bridge between the man you pretend to be and the man you truly are. And though each step costs you comfort, convenience, and even the approval of those who like the old version of you, the reward is far greater. Dignity, clarity, and a deep sense of inner freedom that no one can take away. This is not a theoretical promise, but a lived reality. Many men in midlife find themselves with the title, the house, and the routine, yet with an emptiness they cannot name. Only when life delivers a jolt, a health scare, a broken relationship, or a crisis of meaning do they realize the cost of delay. But you do not have to wait for catastrophe to wake up. You can choose today to practice courage in small, steady ways, to face the shadow you've avoided, to release the soft addictions that dull your spirit, to protect your energy like a precious resource. Each choice rewires your life toward purpose. Each sacrifice carves space for peace. And each honest act calls you deeper into the man you were meant to become. The truth is simple but demanding. The painful road of transformation is the only one that leads to lasting freedom. And the more you walk it, the more you discover that the pain was never wasted. It was the price of becoming real. So as we've explored in today's video, Carl Jung reminds us that life becomes wasted when we live unconsciously, repeating old patterns and ignoring the deeper call of our soul. True meaning and happiness come when we awaken, confront our inner truths, and choose a life that aligns with who we really are. At Spiritual Wisdom, our mission is to guide you toward that awakening. Now, I want to hear from you. What is one step you're ready to take today to stop wasting your life and start living with intention? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your journey might just inspire someone else's. And if this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more wisdom that can transform your life.